Alright, this is 4th grade ELA text set 3, The Crane Wife. The essential question is, why is it important to try to understand the feelings of others? The read aloud goal is to notice character changes that occur in Asmu. Folktales are simple stories that are told over and over again. The folktale I'm going to read you today is from Japan. It is called The Crane Wife by Odds Bodkin. So this is the man, Asmu, and the crane. Okay. The story begins when a poor man who lives alone is kind to a wounded crane. Once in ancient Japan, there lived a lonely sailmaker named Asmu. Asmu's house was built high above the sea on a hilltop. From where he sat weaving his sails, Asmu could see the green salt marsh below, dotted with white cranes. As he pulled the wrap and weft of his sail fabric together, he would often think to himself, "How beautiful the cranes are! Of all the birds, they are the most like sails. It is as if the wind is held in their wings." All his life Asmu had wished for a wife to comfort his lonely hours at the loom. But with one rice steamer, one pot for making tea, and little else, he knew his chances of finding a wife to live with him were small. Autumn came, the seasons of storms. Red leaves fell on the dark wood of his porch. One night, as the wind howled, Asmu heard something strike his door. Curious, he looked out. There lay a great crane, stunned and still. There's the crane. "Oh, poor bird," he cried, kneeling. Asmu carefully folded the crane's crumpled wings and carried it inside. How light it was, so delicate. Amazed, he warmed the beautiful creature by his fire, caressing its wings. Soon its black, shiny eyes opened. For 3 days, Asmu nursed the crane back to health. Then he watched it soar away. So Asmu is kind to the crane and nurses it back to health. What do you think might happen because of his kindness? Time passed, and one night a great storm blew in from the sea. Through the sound of the pelting rain, Asmu heard a knocking on his door. "Who is there?" called Asmu, peering out. A beautiful young woman gazed up at him, her black eyes shining. "Who are you?" gasped Asmu. "Help me!" cried the young woman, shivering in her wet garments. "Oh, forgive me. Please come in." Asmu bowed and stared as she stepped inside. Never in all his life had he stood close to so beautiful a young woman. Asmu served the young woman tea and rice and a little bit of the precious fish given to him by the fishermen in the harbor. Gradually she stopped shivering. They knelt across from each other. The lamp flame flickered. Finally he found words. Now, how had she come to him in the storm? Where was her family? Where was her home? Asmu asked her many questions, but all the young woman would tell him was that her name was Yukiko. Time passed. Frost covered the black twigs outside Asmu's window, and still Yukiko had not left. It was beyond Asmu's wildest hope to think that she might stay. He was afraid to ask her to marry him. He had so little, yet as the days passed, a love grew between them. With no word spoken, Yukiko became his wife. But Asmu was still just a poor sailmaker, and it came to a time in the little house above the marsh where there was not enough food for the two of them to eat. So what are you thinking about Yukiko? Where do you think she came from? Yukiko saw this, so she came to him one day and said, "Husband, I will weave you a magic sail that you may take and sell in the village below." "You can weave a magic sail?" She pulled the dress screen across the room, hiding his loom, which sat near the window. "Yes, but you must promise never to look at me as I work," she said. "Why?" Asmu asked. "Promise me," Yukiko insisted, and Asmu promised. Yukiko began to work. Asmu could hear the shuttle sliding and loomed rocking. Hours passed. Night fell. Asmu slept. At dawn, Yukiko was still working behind the screen. When at last she appeared, Yukiko looked very tired. "That's natural," Asmu thought. "She has worked all night." But then Yukiko placed the sail in his arms. Ozma forgot everything. Though immensely strong, the sail weighed nearly nothing at all. A sound like faraway whispering lifted from the folds. Ozma put his ear to the sail. His eyes went wide. Yukiko had woven in the wind. Ozma ran to the harbor with the magic sail, showed it to all, and has paid enough gold to live for half a year. Overjoyed, he ran home. Yukiko smiled. Time passed. Springtime came. Rain fell, and the marsh again bloomed green. The white cranes returned. Yukiko and Ozma could hear their calls. It was in late spring that the gold ran out. Once again, Ozma and Yukiko grew hungry. Ozma said, Yukiko, you should weave another magic sail. Oh, husband, I cannot, she replied. It takes all that I am to weave such sails. I am afraid to weave another. But wife, please, one more, I will never ask again. Yukiko loved him, but do not watch me then, she said, and she disappeared behind the screen. A full day passed. Yukiko, Ozma called, do you want water? Do you want rice? The only answer was the sound of the loom rocking. At the end of 2 days, Yukiko emerged exhausted, holding a second sail, but more beautiful than the first. It, too, held the wind. Thinking only of gold, Ozma ran to the village and sold the magic sail. Everyone talked of Ozma's skill, for he told no one it was Yukiko who had made the sails. Again, he was paid enough gold to last 6 long months. Time passed. Autumn returned, the season of storms. The cranes in the marsh grew restless, their feathers ruffled in the bending grasses and flying leaves. One day, Ozma was visiting the village when a great trading ship docked in the harbor. From it strode a tall captain, a wealthy trader. The captain questioned the fishermen in the harbor, and they all pointed to Ozma. I have sailed a great distance to find you, Ozma, said the captain. I want you to weave a magic sail for my ship. Ozma thought of Yukiko and of the promise he had made. I cannot, he replied. The 2 I made are the only 2 I shall ever make. The captain laughed. Make me a sail, Ozma, and I will pay you a lifetime's gold. You shall never work again. A lifetime's gold, thought Ozma. Imagine. So Yukiko weaves another sail and is exhausted. Why do you think she's exhausted? What do you think will happen at the end of another 6 weeks? Or 6 months. There's the captain, and then there's Ozma. Home he ran. Yukiko, he called. There is a man in the harbor who will give us a lifetime's gold if, he stopped in the door, if you will weave one more sail. Fear swept across Yukiko's face. Ozma, no, I'm afraid. Yukiko, a lifetime's gold. Don't you see you will never want for tea or rice again. But these sails, they take so much from me, she pleaded. It is my very self they take. Ozma frowned at Yukiko. I am your husband, he said, his voice growing loud. I command you. Yukiko began to weep. Very well, she said, trembling, but promise you will not look at me. I promise. Now go, make my sail. Yukiko pulled the screen before the loom and disappeared. Outside, Ozma paced his porch. He could see the ship at anchor in the harbor, waiting. A day passed, then another. Still Yukiko worked. A 3rd day dawned. Never had she worked so long. What is she doing? Ozma wondered. Yukiko, he called. Do you want water? Do you want rice? But she gave no answer. Why, wondered Ozma, should only Yukiko know how to weave magic sails? Why could he not learn the secret of weaving in the wind? Then he could make many magic sails, and he could save Yukiko the work she did not wish to do. Ozma could hear the shuttle sliding and the loom rocking. Yukiko, answer me! Unable to contain himself, Ozma ran around the screen. A long beak swung toward him. Sad black eyes gleamed at him. There stood the crane he had saved in the storm. Yukiko! The bird was weaving its white feathers into the sail on the loom. Filled with sea wind, the feathers were trembling. So, what happened? Why does Ozma see a crane weaving? Have your feelings about Ozma changed? So look. She's weaving her feathers into that thing to make the sail. Yukiko! Ozma cried, but the only answer his crane wife could give was a soft, strange sound, like a cat purring in bamboo reeds. Then Yukiko spread her tattered wings, lifting herself through the window and into the sky. Never again did Ozma see her. He wove simple sails for the rest of his years, there at his window, gazing at the marsh and the white cranes, and each autumn, in the season of storms, he waited for a knock on his door. So do you think Ozma would change anything if he could go back in time? If so, what do you think he would change? Okay, and the read aloud goal was for how did Ozma change throughout that book? How did he change?